Hey YouTube audience, my name is Yogi Chris and this is a video about intelligent vinyasa. This is a yoga YouTube channel, so I kind of expect you to know what vinyasa is or have an idea, but I can quickly say vinyasa, it's a progression of movements that leads towards peak movements and also transitions you out of yoga postures into regular living. If anybody does a lot of yoga, you know that if you go really deep into your yoga, you're stretching, you're breathing, you're meditating, you're doing mantras, you're doing whatever you're doing with your yoga practice, that sometimes it can be a little bit agitating to stop that and go back into normal living, go take care of chores, errands, job responsibilities, family, normal conversations. That when you go so deep inwards, tampering with your physiology and the mechanics of your body, there needs to be some intelligent transition from the yoga practice back into daily living. Also, the transition from daily living into your yoga practice. So those transitions is essentially the vinyasa concept. And I'm doing many seminars coming up in Florida, in North Carolina, one in West Virginia, a whole bunch in Texas and Colorado. Coming up, you can go to ninthlim.com and see my calendar. One of the events that are coming up right around the corner in Tampa, Florida is an event called Intelligent Vinyasa. And what is this? First, the yoga experience, it's a mental experience. It's the stopping of your mind, which is a kind of a awareness experience. It's not the yoga pose, it's not the intensity of stretching, it's not the sweating, it's not the detoxing. None of that. If your mind, if you leave more agitated, it wasn't good yoga. And at some point you're not going to be able to get less and less agitated until you just kind of stop your mind. Like, what is that? What does that mean to stop your mind? I have a video on this YouTube channel called Mindful Meditation that gives you a glimpse of what stopping the mind is. When you can integrate that teaching, the mindful, I'll see if I can link it below, but you can find it, Mindful Meditation, Ninth Limb. Integrate that practice into yoga poses and you'll have an experience of yoga while you're moving, while you're stretching, and that will translate really, really well into life. You can have a living yoga experience when you're doing life, anything that you're doing, if you have awareness of your mind, and you can carry with you the stillness that you cultivate in a yoga practice. The other main outcomes, that's like the mental state of mind outcome of the Intelligent Vinyasa seminar. It's a 2-hour workshop. I teach it all over. I teach many different kinds of events, so it's all of the events I named in Florida and Texas and everything. Most of them are not Intelligent Vinyasa events, but it's a few times I teach Intelligent Vinyasa, so this video could be useful for all of those future events also as a reference. The main physical takeaways are going to be, 1, active rotational movements. Too much of yoga that you experience, you watch a YouTube video, a guided yoga class, or you go to most yoga classes, there's a lot of linear movements, forward, back, sideways, side bend. It's linear stuff. It's not rotating your joints into the posture. Your joints were made to rotate. Your body was made to rotate. That's how evolution designed it. It wasn't made to just go. There is a forward back motion of the running, but you even see it when you're running that the arms tend to cross the center line. It's not as linear. Sprinters make it linear so that the force goes forward and back, but you have to force that because the body wasn't designed like that. And having some active movements where you don't just yank your bones into place. You don't yank on your muscles trying to open your hamstrings or trying to open your belly or whatever you're trying to open your chest. There needs to be movement where you engage muscles that moves your joints into place, and then you stretch a little bit. It's actively moving into a position to stretch that area. You don't even really stretch it, you just kind of elongate it. And then a little bit of stretch versus a passive pose where let's say this would be like passive, like I'm yanking on my arm and I'm getting a good stretch here, but I don't have good range of motion because I need the strength to get my arm to that position. That's active. See here, I still feel the stretch, but I'm actively using that. I'm not pulling. Then I can add a little bit of pull that it'll be much safer because years from now, you might not do as much yoga. You might be really flexible, but you don't have the strength to keep the integrity in your joints. Active movements. It's going to be very fulfilling for students, people that aren't necessarily teachers, because it will give you a glimpse of where your yoga is going. Once you do linear movement and stretches long enough, you're going to be about as flexible as you're going to get. You'll make little incremental changes. What you'll need are rotational movements and active movements to take it further without destabilizing your joints. Teachers are going to get a boost. They're going to just, you're going to get a boost in techniques and a boost in language. Part of Intelligent Vinyasa, the sequence, what I teach and how I teach it is the exact cues, exact language for how to talk to the body, how to move joints. Vague language would get you vague postures. And it's a complaint I hear pretty frequently. I've taught so many places, 100 studios around the United States, that teachers, they feel their language is getting stale. They're using the same language over and over. They teach 10, 15, 20 classes a week in some cases. They're using the same cues. They hear the same cues over and over. Their students hear the same cues. You need new language to describe how to do the yoga pose. That'll deepen the yoga pose. It allows you to verbally adjust many people simultaneously, because a hands-on adjustment, you just do one at a time, maybe two. And so the language is going to really give you a deeper experience of the yoga pose and bolster your ability to teach, which means like expand your ability to teach. Then really there's other takeaways. I don't want to make this video too long. The two last takeaways that I'll talk about, there's the mindset, the yoga mindset, there's the active rotational movements, there's the exact cueing, and then the last two takeaways, first is distinguishing nerves from muscles. This is all part of the 2-hour workshop. You will walk away knowing the difference between three main nerves that we'll talk about: the sciatic nerve, the brachial nerves, and the phrenic nerve. And maybe the vagus nerve, but really the phrenic nerve down the center of the body, how to use your diaphragm. When you can you must be able to distinguish when you're stretching a nerve versus when you're stretching a muscle. Because one, injuries could happen if you try to stretch a nerve. They don't really stretch. Two, it integrates your mind much more precisely into what's actually happening. Mistaking a nerve for a muscle is going to lead to suffering. You're going to overstretch it, or you're going to agitate your nervous system. Nerves aren't muscles. They do different things. And you definitely want this kind of awareness, especially if you have involuntary muscle contractions or tension in places. That's related to your nervous system more than the muscles. And so that's just going to level up your awareness tremendously. The last thing is reorienting the bones. Reorient the bones. In so many yoga classes, you're going to put weight on your hands. You're going to do a down dog. You're going to do maybe a crow pose. You're going to do something where your hand is on the ground, a side plank. They don't have to be the most advanced handstands, but you're going to put weight on your hands. And how you orient the upper arm bone, how you orient the shoulder blade, how you orient the forearm bones and the wrist and the hands. This orientation of the bones of the upper body is going to it's going to play out huge in the overall tension or relaxation you create in the pose. It's going to play out in accumulative injuries or non-injuries. Years of doing hand balancing or putting weight on your hands that it's not going to create an injury. And that's huge. Students need to know these things so they don't get injured. Teachers need to know these things so they can easily correct students so that they're not getting injured. You will stand out as a teacher if you can do these sorts of, if you have this sort of information and I've transmitted to you rapidly. You get a printout and succinctly and in a flow. You can even record the class. It'll blow your mind, really, what happens. I have a whole bunch of recordings from past classes. They get my private subscribers. The Silent Flute is my program. They get those recordings of recorded workshops. So if you're interested, if you're not in the area in Florida, Houston, or I'm not coming to your city, maybe you're more remote or you're in another country, whatever. If you're interested in my Intelligent Vinyasa recordings, then go to ninthlimb.com and sign up for the Silent Flute and you get access to all of that. And otherwise, I hope to see you in Lutz, in Tampa, in Jacksonville, in Asheville, in Houston, all these places I'm going. Boone, North Carolina is coming up at the Art of Living Retreat Center. That's a huge event at the end of April. And you can find all that, again, on my website, ninthlimb.com. There's a calendar. And thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Namaste.